Sorry. We are starting again from u-le-achorah and moving on page Tzadik Hey.
Second.
Oh, dial in?
Tzadik Hey.
Sorry, thank you. Aber PALTIEL. Page Tzadik Hey. What we may call the third paragraph on the page, beginning with u-le-achorah and moving. We are still, so to speak, struggling with the question, with the dilemma of how Bina comes from Chochmah. And the central question is, Bina and Chochmah are not just different levels, they are different worlds. Chochmah pertains and recognizes the Etzem, and Bina pertains and recognizes the Mitzias. And again, you cannot repeat it too often to understand the principle of Etzem. We mentioned that Chochmah is called conceptualization. And we discussed yesterday the difference between conceptualization and comprehension. Comprehension pertains to understand something that is tangible in front of you and you understand what it is. Conceptualization means that you are conceptualizing something from a non-being. You're creating a concept. This creating of a concept, where does it come from? It comes from a sense of a truth beyond Mitzias. Conceptualization. Chochmah and Bina are indeed this categorically this different. Bina pertains to something that is present, and you decipher it and you understand all the details of how it operates and what it consists of. Chochmah is that which delves into the essence. Again, where is the concept, where is the principle of essence come from? In our world there is no essence. In our world everything is Mitzias. To the extent that the wise Chachamim, idiots of the world decided the world can create itself. From one Mitzias to another Mitzias to another Mitzias. The whole union of concept of AYIN in the world, the whole union of AYIN is that which is given by the Creator, who is not Mitzias. Therefore, Chochmah draws and relates to the Creator phenomenon rather than the created phenomenon. This is called, in Chassidus and in this paragraph, AYIN. AYIN means a non-entity. But this non-entity supports and gives vent to everything that exists. And we had numerous illustrations of the concept in practical life. So therefore, our dilemma is, Bina comes from Chochmah, but they're two different worlds. How does Chochmah present? What is Chochmah present to the Bina? That Bina can now go and develop. And the answer is that Chochmah ultimately can come down, but in it Chochmah itself can come to the level what's called Nekudas HaHaskola. Nekudas HaHaskola, Haskola means conceptualization, the point of that concept. Why is it called a point? Because it comes in the form of a point, in the form of a recognition that has no hands or feet, has no presence yet. This Nekudas HaSkola, from a perspective of human experience, it's the highest level there is. Nekudas HaSkola, the point of conceptualization. From the perspective of the Chochmah, of the Koyach HaChochmah itself, it's the lowest level. Because Chochmah, as we said, recognizes the divine truth. This is already a world level recognition of awareness. This is the lowest level. This lowest level is what is able to supply to Bina its source, its means of delving into something. It's only a Nekuda, but it's a Nekuda in a worldly context, in a worldly presence. And therefore Bina is able to, has something to delve into. On this principle, that Chochmah in Nekudas HaSkola presents it to Bina, we had a dilemma. The dilemma principally is this: this Nekudas HaSkola is part of Chochmah. It's part of Chochmah. It is part of the same entity that has the highest level of AYIN, of Chochmah. And therefore, it cannot be that that the same entity has two levels that are so totally divergent, so totally different. One is being super worldly, the other being worldly. And therefore, we came to the conclusion that this Nekudas HaSkola is really, the Nekudas HaSkola also relates to AYIN. It's also an AYIN. It's a non-entity, non-presence. It's an atzmi. It's recognizing the etzem of the inyan. The etzem, again, not the concept, but where the concept is coming from. That's the etzem. Where the concept is coming from is not a presence in the world. It is something which is commanded by the Creator. This is therefore our dilemma is, how can the same entity, it's called Chochmah, on one end, and its upper end, it is AYIN, it is Etzem, on the lower end, it's a Metzius of world. And why do we have to say it's a Metzius of world? Because that is what Bina is based on. That's what we see as a world. To this we came to recognize another phenomenon, that actually Chokhmah and Bina are not a developmental process, but it's what's called Yesh Me'ayin. Bina gets its knowledge, and it cannot trace it back and say, where did I get it from? The Chokhmah is in total concealment from the Bina, from the Metzias that Bina recognizes. It's called Yesh Me'ayin. And we discussed yesterday.
Press 1. Returning to the conference room.
We discussed yesterday, to understand this process of Yesh Me'ayin is something that is created, is effectuated by the Creator Himself. He takes the Ayin and puts it into the Yesh. There is no natural process of Yesh Me'ayin, worldly process, because Ayin is not a worldly presence. That's what's called Yesh Me'ayin. So that the Ayin, the Nekudas HaSkola, is completely concealed from the Bina. And now we come to the next stage in this understanding. In other words, we came to the conclusion that Chokhmah and Bina are related in a model, what's called Yesh Me'ayin. Bina gets something, but it does not know where it's getting it from. The source from which it's getting from, relative to Bina, it's Ayin. We had many misholim in the last few days to illustrate this, to give us a sense of what that means. What comes to mind today is something that we discussed many times, when we said that the Shemesh brightens up the world, contrary to what it appears, that it brightens up the world by sending out its rays. The Metzias which is the world. The Shemesh brightens up the world by its very presence. Even as a human being has a home, and he occupies his home not by bringing himself into the home. He's present, he's in the home, automatically he's everywhere in the home. The sun is everywhere by being present. This is how an etzem affects its environment. It does not have to occupy itself with the environment, with the space, to bring its quality everywhere. By its presence, it's automatically everywhere. Just like a human being is automatically in every crack and crevice of his home. We demonstrated this with the principle of the attic. Everybody knows what that refers to. So this is Etzem, Chokhmah, and Bina is a Metzias. And now we're trying to understand further in this. It would appear to be something that is not understandable. Why that? Because Harei Nekudas HaSkola de Chokhmah, since that point of Haskola, of conceptualization of Chokhmah, Ba Bivchinas Hasoga Bebina, ultimately it comes down in a Hasoga state, a comprehension state. In Bina, And in Bina, this comprehension means that it is a full-fledged Metzius. That's what Bina is. It explains all the details and all the interrelationships within that. V'chol hasogas habino, all comprehension of Bina, he binekudas haskola, is all that he's comprehending is that which is contained within this nekuda, within this point. I want to focus on this last few words. I hope I have you with me. Let's repeat these words. Significant. The entire comprehension of Bina, he is Binekudas Haskola, is within the Nekuda of the Haskola. What is the emphasis over here? We said already that the Nekudas Haskola comes to Haskola Bina. So the Rebbe makes a point. Very important point. It's conceivable that yes, indeed, Bina gets its idea from Nekudas HaHaskola, but the mode of understanding it comes from is in a different arena, in a different area. Then he looks back onto the world, and he identifies things in the world from a worldly perspective, in a worldly environment, and begins to explain things within the world in that environment. So he's not really involved in the Nekudas HaHaskola, he's involved in applying the Nekudas HaHaskola into Metzius of world. To this the Rebbe makes the emphasis. No. Kol hasogas habina, the end of the first line. All the hasogas are, all the comprehension of Bina. Everything that Bina focuses on and tries to understand, Nekudas HaHaskola is trying to understand the Nekudas HaHaskola, not its application in a tangible arena. Bina is trying to understand the Nekudas HaHaskola itself. And we discussed the other day, Nekudas HaHaskola, despite the fact that it's a Nekuda, it's only a point, but it's a presence. It's a presence, has a worldly definition, a worldly presence, and that's why Bina can get into this. There's something there to deal with. It's not AYIN. So the Hasogas Bina is in the Nekudas HaHaskola. Not only that he draws its understanding from the Nekuda, but that is what Bina is involved in the Nekudas HaHaskola, trying to further and further understand the significance of this Nekudas HaHaskola. Therefore, we have this dilemma: Ve'eich nikro ha'chochma AYIN legabe Bina. How then can we turn around and say, refer to Chochmah and define Chochmah as AYIN legabe Bina? AYIN, from the perspective of Bina, it's AYIN, a non-entity. The whole thing that Bina is involved in is in the Nekudas HaHaskola, is in Chochmah. So how can you take that this is AYIN? We already learned this, I'm going further. Therefore, we are forced to say, in reaction to this dilemma, Shagam Nekudas HaHaskola, that even Nekudas HaHaskola, even that low, that very fine level of Chochmah, it's called Nekudas HaHaskola, he b'bchinas havdolah me'habina. He's in a remote relationship to Bina. Havdolah. It is not in the world of Bina. It is in a different world. It is remote from Bina. Bina may see it, may recognize it, but it's at a distance. It stays apart. It stays away. To the extent it is so remote, to the extent shenikra ayin legabe habina, that this is properly referred to and described as ayin legabe bina, ayin, and not presence. You don't know where bina is coming from, because the source of bina, this Nekudas HaSkola, is so remote and so far away they don't even see it. There's much I want to point out. V'hu, and that is shebahasichli de chochma. It means to say that in the sichli element of chochma, the intelligence element of chochma, not just the nekuda, the conceptionalization, but in the seichel element. Gam kein meir b'zeh b'chinas ha'etzem. In the sichli,
press 1.
in the sichli element of chochma, therein has the impact of etzem. B'chinas ha'etzem, the beginning of the etzem. V'hainu, which means to say, the Nekudas HaSkola de Chochma, this Nekuda Meir Bozeh Dakos Etzem Hunyan HaMuskal. He sensed Dakos. Dakos means the very fine aspect of Etzem Hunyan HaMuskal, of the essence of this conceptualization. Which is not possible to be brought down to Hasoga, to comprehension. And that which does come to Hasoga, it's only the external aspect. The external of this, this is only the sichli element, that which makes sense. Not the sensing of the essential truth that is in this point. This is what comes down into Bina. The Nekudas HaSkola, we already discussed this. I'm going to repeat it. Nekudas HaSkola, it's only a Nekuda, it's only a point. A point has no dimension. What does it stand on? Yet, it is very powerful. We always ask, what's the point? What is the significance of this one? What's the point? And we say the point is, this is very, very strong, very powerful. The reason the point is so powerful is that in this point you sense the essential truth. You sense the presence of what you are understanding at a much higher level, on an essential level. Not on a level that is comprehensible, but on the divine level. Which means it is there even if you don't know, even if you don't experience it and you don't know proof of it. We speak lately a lot on the principle, on the term, it's called Moide al Ho'emes. Moide al Ho'emes, why don't you say Maven is Ho'emes or masculine is Ho'emes? Moide al Ho'emes is a superior way of relating to Emes. Moide al Ho'emes means I don't know what it is, but I know it's there. I'm so sure it's there that I'm dedicating my life to it. That's Moide al Ho'emes. although I have no way of defining it. This is emes, what's called the emes of the etzem emes. In Bina, what can be brought out in Bina, so to speak, in conscious understanding, in comprehension, only the chitzonius of it. The chitzonius means only the sichli, that which you can make sense of. You can explain how one thing affects the other. But the essential point cannot be understood in Chayim Bina. There is not, beyond this line again, there is not hargoshas ho'atzmi. There is not even the sensing of the atzmi that is contained in this nakuda. Which means that even though I get the nakuda, but the nakuda is limping, I have to give it support. There is not, in Bina there is no sense that this is an essential truth that doesn't need any support. There's a sichli. Sichli, like we said, a tabletop must have legs that support it. There's no atzem in Bina. Let me go a little further. The hine yodu al mavur b'kam mekemus. It is known and discussed and explained in many places. The b'nekudas haskol, that in the point of haskol, in the point of conceptualization, meir ha'oir begilui. The oir shines begilui, in a revealed manner. What is oir? We discussed this many times. What is oir? Oir is the impact of the essential truth. Like we said before, the sun is described in the Torah in the Pasuk as memshelas, it rules the day. Ruling the day means that it rules, it's just like a king who rules a country. He doesn't have to be present all over the country. He sits in his palace and he's automatically everywhere. He rules it. It's his. Just like a human being, a person has the right, the ability to own a home. Not because he's present everywhere. By his personal presence, he rules it. He has that capability, that power, that right of ownership, which is a divine gift. This is called oyer. presence that is not tangible, that cannot be explained. What is it? There's no worldly presence, or no worldly way of explaining it. This is the meaning of the words. You could just call it Meir ha'oir begilu, the oir, which means the oir, the impact of the etzem, that's called oir. In the Kudas HaSkola, you sense the impact of the etzem. This is what's called Meir ha'oir begilu. Then when this nekuda comes down, in comprehension, with many definitive details, would you explain the whole phenomenon? Mis'alem hoir. The oir is then misalem, concealed. It conceals itself, because the oil is not represented in these protein. For those of us who followed through it, and all we talked about a table, if you explain a table that it is 4 legs and a board on top of it that stands, and the legs supported, there's no oil in there. There's only mitzias. There is not the human impact of the table. How come it stands? How come it's present over here? So when it comes down, if you start defining it in protein, in mitzias bina, misalem oil, the oil is concealed. You lose sense of the oil. All right, I think we have to end here. Very difficult to end here. There's so much more to say. I just wanted to have some feedback. Did we get a nakuda? Did we get a point?